Most people leave a ton of money on the table with grading, and it's not because of bad grades. It's because they picked the wrong kinds of cards to submit. They lost in the draft. Now, I've graded thousands of cards over the past 20 years and built a six-figure side hustle doing it. And in this video, I'm going to show you my exact process for how I decide which cards to grade and which to skip, so you can skip the guesswork and find ones that actually make you money. Let's get into it. So the first two things I'm looking for when I'm trying to pick a card to target for grading are value and condition. So if value is off, I don't want to target that card for grading. If condition is off, I don't want to target that card for grading. Okay. So for value, what I'm looking for here is something that's going to give me a big premium if it gets the grade I'm looking for. I deal in a lot of modern cards, so I'm looking for PSA 10s. And if the card comes back as a 10 and it's not going to give me very much profit potential, I don't really want to buy that card and spend the time, spend the grading fee on grading that card. I came up with a rule that I've used for years that I really think helps with this quite a bit. And it forces us to make sure we're picking high upside cards where we actually win big when we get the PSA 10. So I call this the 2x rule. And basically, the idea here is I want to see a card where the PSA 10 is worth at least double or 2x the price of the raw card plus the grading fee. And that makes sure that we're not wasting money on cards where, you're spending $3 on the card, 20 to grade it, and then you can only sell it for 28 if it gets a 10. Like what if it gets a 9? It just crushes your profit potential. So we want to see those big graded premiums for the PSA 10s. And that is the first step of the process. Now, the second part is condition. And of course, there's a whole lot of things that can go wrong with condition, but it all starts off with value because if the value isn't there, then I don't even need to worry about condition. So let's walk through an example of this together and I'll show you exactly what I'm looking for. So for starters, let's look at some Caitlin Clark cards. I don't really care if you're a fan of the WNBA or not. If you want to make money in this space, you got to find stuff that's liquid, that's easy to move. It's going to make your life so much easier on the back end when you go to sell. So, as an example, let's look at this Rookie of the Year card. This is a Panini Instant card. So, there's a ton of these out there. And it looks like right now they're selling for, $8 ungraded. Let's just call it $7 ungraded. Now we know we're going to have to spend $20 on the grading fee for this card. So we're going to be into this thing for $27. And that's before talking about tax and shipping. This is looking at Card Ladder there. We were looking at just the raw sale price. So all into this thing, we might be $30 into the card, maybe even a touch more. So let's go back to this and let's add PSA 10 to our search and we'll find what these are selling for as PSA 10s. So here's the upside. So we're looking at 55, 40, 52, 40, 40, 44, 42, 50, 45, 35, 35. So it feels like these are probably pretty safely about $40, maybe 45, 50 on the higher end of the current market, at least at the time of this video. Things can always change, of course. But, when I'm looking at this, I'm saying, okay, I have to pay at least $30 to buy this card and to get it graded. And I'm waiting 2-3 months to get my order back from PSA. So that's a decent chunk of time to have my money tied up. And if I get a PSA 10, I'm only going to be able to make between $40 and $45 of a sale on that card. And that's before fees and any of that stuff starts to eat into my margin. So I'm really only going to have a chance to make a few dollars of profit on this card. That's not that appealing to me. One other thing that I'll look at here is the pop report. So I can see how is this card grading, at least historically. And right now we can see with PSA, there's about a 39% gem rate. That means that only about 4 out of every 10 of these that are being submitted are getting PSA 10s. Now, every card is different, of course. So you might have, 100 perfect cards and go 100 for 100. Sure, that's possible. But a lot of times we can use this data to give ourselves a pretty good clue about how cleanly produced this set was. And so for this card, yeah, you can make a little bit of money on it if you get 10s, but what if you get 9s? Because that's the downside here is if we get rid of 10s and we look at 9s, all of a sudden, remember, we're into this card for $30 here, our $7 to $10 of raw price plus the $20 of grading. And if this gets a 9, that means we just paid $30 to lose money on this card. We're going to lose $10, $15 per 9. And even if we get 10s on the order, let's say we send an order of 10 of those cards and we make, $5, $10 per PSA 10, we're going to lose 15 for every 9. So that means we have to go more than 50% gem rate on the order in order to even make a dollar on that order because of how much the PSA 9s bite into the profit from the PSA 10s. And so to me, guys, this just isn't a card that I want to target for grading at all. If maybe if I come across one and it's in perfect condition, sure, I'll send it off if I'm really confident it's going to get a 10. But I'm just not actively looking for cards like this. I want stuff that has way higher upside. So let's talk through another example here. And we're going to stick with Caitlin Clark. And I'm going to go to her Fractal Prism card. And so we'll see this as, let me get rid of PSA. So you can get rid of PSA here. And so you can just see the raw prices of these things. And they are selling for, 20, 25, 26, 22, 25, 36 for, it has another card in there. So these things on average it looks like about $25 to $30 right now. And that's for the ungraded copy of this card. Now let's look at what this would go for as a PSA 10. And you can see that they're, okay, on the low side, 126 here, on the high side, 188. And there's a lot of these sales, so very consistent in here. And we're looking at somewhere in the 150 to 165 range, most likely for this card. And so there's such a big difference here. If we consider what we're into this thing for, if we buy this for let's say $25 plus a few dollars of, shipping cost, tax, whatever, you're into this thing for 30, you spend 20 on the grading. So you're into this for $50, and then you're able to sell it for $150. That's not even a 2x. That's a 3x multiple on the price that you're paying all in for this card. And that's the type of margin that I want to see as someone who grades cards to try to profit. I'm not here to mess around in the little low end stuff where I'm hoping to scrape a dollar or two off the top. I want to make $100 if I get a PSA 10 on that card. Because guess what? This takes the exact same amount of time, whether you're targeting those little cards or the bigger ones. It takes the same effort, guys. You might as well target the stuff where you're going to get actually paid on the back end, right? And so I'll show you one other trick here that makes this whole process easier. And it's actually a software that I designed for this specific reason. So this is called Coin. It's the Card Opportunity and Investing Navigator. We call it Coin for short. But this is going to automatically surface the top cards on the entire market to target for grading. And so you'll see that Caitlin Clark fractal card is right here. So instead of doing all that research, having to dig into comps and stuff, I can just see all the key data points on one table here. I can filter and sort however I'd like. If I want to just look at basketball, for example, I can do that. Or sort by whatever sport. I can search. Maybe I just care about Caitlin Clark cards and I just want to look at her stuff right now, since she's a high liquidity player, and I can see which of her cards make the table. So this will show a ranked list of the top cards, and it updates automatically multiple times per day. So instead of doing 5 hours of research to find the types of cards to go out and target, I can just pull up this list and do the research in 5 seconds and know exactly what to be looking for. And then I'm off to eBay to go and find clean copies of those cards. If you want to try this tool, I'll leave a link in the description. All right, next step in my process is to go to eBay and to look for the clean copies of these cards. And so the challenge with eBay is you can't see the surface very cleanly. You can sometimes see the corners and the edges okay, but it's never going to be foolproof. You're never going to be able to tell the exact condition from the internet. What you can tell usually pretty well is centering. And so that's the first thing that I'm doing is I'm just automatically, anything that's way off center, I'm not interested in buying that card. And I'm looking for the copies that look clean, that don't have clear and obvious damage to the corners or the edges or the surface, and that look like they're centered. That's what's going to give me the best chance at finding clean raw copies on eBay. And yes, you can find clean raw copies on eBay. Don't give me the excuses and the nonsense. I've been doing this for almost 20 years, and every single month I've been finding clean cards to grade from eBay for almost 20 years. So I'm telling you, if you don't think it can be done, I'm sorry, but you're wrong. You got to work harder. You got to put in the effort to find these cards. It does take effort, but they are out there. And so when you get into here, I'm just going to actually show you, here's like kind of what I've done to save some time here. But I bought a bunch of these cards. You can see a bunch of the fractals, and I've picked up a couple of lower end prism parallels too. What's kind of cool about Coin is it'll show you the cards that are going to be more the lower end cards that are easier to actually find. So if you're looking for higher end cards, what's cool is you can just start with the Coin list and then go to the parallels of those cards. And oftentimes those are some of the really good plays too. Like just looking at this green version of the fractal, I picked up a few of those. There's another one down here, but a couple of these greens that are just going to make it an even bigger win if we can get 10s on those cards. So that's the next step in the process. All right, so next we're waiting for our cards for a week or two. The good news is I prepared for this video in advance and I actually bought these cards a week or two ago. So we don't have to wait. They're all here. I haven't gotten into them yet to see how clean they are, but that is the next step in the process. So we'll dig into that next. right, so we've got a bunch of Caitlin Clark cards to go through here. We got to check them for condition. Not all the cards that we buy, even if we're careful about looking at which cards to target on eBay, we're still going to end up buying some cards that aren't in gradable condition. And I'm not just randomly submitting those anyway. That's a waste of money because I don't want nines on this card. I want tens. And so if I find things that are wrong with it, I'm just going to take that card out of my grading stack and liquidate it ungraded. And even if I lose a few dollars on the ungraded cards that I'm selling raw, that's okay because I'm selling them so that I can free up that cash to go buy the next card. If I sit in that card and just leave my money tied up in it, I'm stuck and I don't have a strategy moving forward other than just hoping the card randomly rises in value, which for her maybe they do because she's a good player and her performance may, push values higher, but that's just not a good strategy if you're looking at this as a way to make money consistently over time, month after month. You got to free your cash back up and get back out of those cards so you can get into the next one that has a chance at a PSA 10. So again, even if I lose a few dollars on that card by liquidating ungraded, I'm going to make so much more on all the 10s that it more than makes up for the small tiny losses on the ones that don't end up being gradable. So I'm going to go through all of these and we'll see how we did and we'll see what our grading order looks like. All right, so this first card looks super clean. You can see how I'm holding it here. I don't like to touch the card. I don't wear gloves or do any of that crazy stuff. I just use a super high-tech kit of this microfiber cloth that came in a pair of sunglasses a couple of years ago, and that's literally it. I don't use any chemistry sets or any of that stuff. I know there's people that swear by that stuff, and fine if that's your thing. Not for me though. And all you do is I just want to wipe down real gently, like the surface of the card to get off fingerprints. If there's any little scuffs, like there's a tiny little mark here. Yeah, and it just came right off just with this microfiber cloth. But very carefully, you got to handle the cards with care. I mean, use common sense there. But the idea is let's just find cards that are clean enough to have a chance at a PSA 10. And we don't know for sure until we get them graded. There's human error in the process. So there's always going to be a little bit of variance from one submission to the next, and that's okay. We just got to know the game we're playing. And so for me, this card looks super clean. It looks like it probably has an 80-90% chance of getting a PSA 10. How do I know that? By getting repetitions, by doing this thousands of times over the past couple of decades. So you'll get better at it the more you do it. The more submissions you send off, the better you get. And the more reps you get, the better you get at evaluating condition. So all I'm doing is throwing this thing into a card saver. You really want the card saver ones. If you get a different size, it like the twos are really small, so it makes it a really tight fit. So I like the card saver ones. And so I'm going to do that for the next handful of cards here, and we'll see how we end up. All right, so I went through all the cards, and we have our grading order prepared here. So we've got, let's see, it's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 9 cards from this particular haul. I think about 15 total. So I guess I should just check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so 6. We have 6 no grades and we have 9 that we're going to send to PSA here. And what's nice about this is even if I don't go 100% on this order, remember the PSA 10 premium is so big on those fractal cards, and it's even bigger on some of the parallels, like those little green ones I picked up a couple of. Man, you don't need to get that many PSA 10s to create a really profitable grading order here. So I have a lot of confidence. I was super picky on the cards that I bought from eBay. And it looked, usually it's about half of the cards that I buy from eBay that I end up submitting. And this one, it ended up being 9 out of 15. So 60%, if I can do math. So not bad. And we'll see how these turn out. Even if I'm this little order, I've got a few other cards to submit with this one too. But even on this little batch, this little play, as I like to call it, I don't have to get that high of a gem rate for this to make me a whole bunch of money. All right, guys, so that's my process. So it's not always easy, but it really is that simple, and it just takes effort. So if you think that you're going to snap your fingers and get rich overnight, it's just not going to happen. You must put in some time, you must put in some effort, but the more reps you get, just remember grading is a skill, and the more skilled you become, typically the more money you make at it because it is a money-making skill. So it would follow that as you get better at that skill, you're going to become more profitable by picking better cards, by making sure you're not sending in stuff that's going to get bad grades. And so remember, for the sake of this video, the key points to keep in mind are value and condition are the 2 things you want to consider before sending anything for grading. If the value's not there, don't send it in. If the condition is not there, don't send it in. Don't waste your money, okay? Now, when it comes to value, the other thing is the 2x rule. So remember, we want to see big PSA 10 premiums, not little ones. We want to win big when we get those 10s. And so we want the PSA 10 value to be at least double the price of the raw card plus the grading fee. And that will give us those cards that give us plenty of upside to offset any cards that we have to sell ungraded, any PSA 9s that we get. It's fine because we're going to make so much more money on the 10s as long as we're targeting high upside cards. So I hope this video helps you take your grading game up to the next level. But if you're still looking for more and you want my full proven system and personalized help along the way, take a look at Cardboard Profit Ignite. It's our card investing community. We've got over 100 card investors learning and winning together. I'll leave a link in the description. We'll see you on the next one.